Hello and welcome to English 12B Week 7 of Quarter 2. Today we're going to finish up the final tutorial from Unit 9 on war literature, and then you'll be all set. Even though it's not part of the lesson activities, I do want to talk a little bit about the war poets, just because I happen to find this era of poetry, World War I specifically, pretty interesting. So it's just, it's cool to like read about this, but World War I was specifically particularly, that's what I mean, horrible. And so I really just want to read one of the poems. It's one of the most famous poems from this era, but it's called Dulce et Decorum Est. It's by a poet named Wilfred Owen. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind. Gas, gas, quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man on fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you, too, could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory. The old lie. Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. So if you don't know about something that's important about World War I, sorry for the cat, is that the use of mustard gas was in play then. And basically what mustard gas does is liquefy your lungs. So when he's saying the sounds of drowning, he's literally drowning on his own lungs. So it's super gross. It's really vivid imagery that he's using. But the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, means it is sweet and honorable to die for one's country. And so he's saying, like, basically it's a commentary, right, on this idea that these young men signed up for this war to honor their country, but how is dying like this any kind of honor? So just an interesting, beginning to this idea of war literature. Okay, so this is not my favorite thing to cover, but we're going to look at an excerpt of Mein Kampf by Hitler, because that's a thing that we're going to do. So we're going to look at two aspects of it. What are the main points and his purpose, and then what are some of the techniques that he uses? What emotions does he pull in? And then is this propaganda what he's doing? So, sorry, my mouse is not working. All right. I'm going to turn this off while I read this. So the first thing that you want to think about is why was this written, and then what points is he trying to make? I don't want to say that he is making points because, yeah. Anyway. Okay. His unfailing instinct in such things sends the original soul in everyone, and his hostility is assured to anyone who is not spirit of his spirit. Since the Jew is not the attacked but the attacker, not only anyone who attacks passes as his enemy, but also anyone who resists him. But the means with which he seeks to break such reckless but upright souls is not honest warfare, but lies and slander. Sorry. So if you don't gather it from the title, the main purpose of what Hitler is writing in this excerpt from Mein Kampf is the weapons of the Jews, right? So the purpose is to anger people and to set people against the Jewish people, turn the Germans against them, all of that. Okay. Here he stops at nothing, and in his vileness he becomes so gigantic that no one need be surprised if among our people the personification of the devil as a symbol of all evil assumes the living shape of the Jew. The ignorance of the broad masses about the inner nature of the Jew, the lack of instinct and narrow-mindedness of our upper classes make the people an easy victim for this Jewish campaign of lies. While from the innate cowardice the upper classes turn away from a man whom the Jews attack with lies and slander, the broad masses from stupidity or simplicity believe everything. The state authorities either cloak themselves in silence, or what usually happens in order to put an end to the Jewish press campaign, they persecute the unjustly attacked, which in the eyes of such an official ass passes the preservation of the state authority and a safeguard of law and order. Slowly, fear and the Marxist weapon of Jewry descend like a nightmare on the mind and soul of decent people. They begin to tremble before the terrible enemy and thus have become his final victim. Basically, sorry, it just kind of goes on. This is another part of the point. So basically, this first point that he's making is just trying to say that the Jewish people are trying to take over Germany and destroy what it means to be German, and that they worship Satan and just a whole bunch of really wild lies that he decides to spew out. And then he also goes on to say that, like, it's actually here. So this is the next set, is his next point. So fear, inciting fear in everybody. And the next point is really this idea of the corruption of the Aryan race. So a satanic joy in his face, the black-haired Jewish youth lurks in wait for the unsuspecting girl whom he defiles with his blood, thus stealing her from her people. With every means he tries to destroy the racial foundations of the people he has set out to subjugate, just as he himself systematically ruins women and girls. He does not shrink back from pulling down the blood barriers for others, even on a large scale. It was and is Jews who bring the Negroes into the Rhineland, that's like Germany, homeland, whatever name, always with the same secret. So basically he's just saying, like, not only do Jewish men and boys rape our beautiful Aryan women, but they also bring Black people into our country. So he's just really trying to, like, instill fears. And then he brings it up in a couple of places. He talks about here with the democracy, the proletariat, Marxist weapon of Jewry, whatever that is. He's basically just trying to say that the Jewish people are trying to come in, bring communism, disrupt the economy, and just, like, anything that people know as Jewish society will just be destroyed by them. So that's really what he is going for in this. Okay, can't really bring myself to read any more of that. What techniques does he use to influence his readers? What emotions does he seem to be appealing to? And would you call it propaganda? Okay, so some of the techniques he definitely uses propaganda. He's really trying to scapegoat. He is using fear. He is just taking anything that people fear, using nationalism. So it's all elements of propaganda, which you would have gone through in this tutorial. He is playing on the audience's fear, hatred, prejudices. He invokes most of his arguments based off of race. And let's see. So I mean, he's using derogatory language, and he's just really trying his hardest to use fear. That's really the main point, which is what the argument would be for this being propaganda. Okay, that's all that I can bring myself to really say on that. All right, so let's go to the second lesson activity in this tutorial. So we're going to compare a video on slide 27, which is just the previous slide, and then while we are listening to that, I'm going to have a different excerpt up just for fun. Keep in mind, they are not the same video. Hopefully you've already watched it once. I just want you to listen to the one while reading or kind of gazing at the other part B, which is does hearing a speech make it more or less compelling than reading the words? And so we'll talk about part A. Again, you need to have watched the slide 27 video before, so this isn't as confusing.
At this conference, His Majesty the King was introduced to representatives of all the British dominions and colonies, and of all the nations that stand beside Britain in the fight against Nazism. These are the men who speak in London for our great empire, and for the free governments of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Greece, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Belgium, Norway, Yugoslavia, and Free France. They pledge themselves to fight against German and Italian oppression until victory, to work together in seeking only a peace in which threats and aggression would have no place. Mr. Churchill spoke for them all in the bomb-scarred Palace of St. James.
They have drawn their swords in this cause. They will never let them fall till life is gone or victory is won. Here we meet, while from across the Atlantic Ocean, the hammers and lathes of the United States signal in a rising hum their message of encouragement and their promise of swift and ever-growing aid. What tragedies, what horrors, what crimes has Hitler and all that Hitler stands for brought upon Europe and the world? They are being repaid, and presently they will be more than repaid. But far worse than these visible injuries is the misery of the conquered people. We see them hounded, terrorized, exploited. Their religious faiths are affronted, persecuted, or oppressed.
Okay, so just, having the speech go on, having the text, different text albeit, up, and then you can read the transcript of both the one that we're looking at for the question and then this one to kind of help with specifics here. But so that should help you answer part B. That's your opinion. I can't answer that for you. But for part A, what main points is he making? Do they use any of the same rhetorical devices? Do they have a similar or different tones? This one we can talk about a bit. So both speeches use parallelism, and that's something that we do want to look at. Sorry, I don't know what's up with my cats. Okay, so parallelism is hopefully something that this lesson went over somewhere. But parallelism is just the idea that if you're, so hard to explain when I hadn't thought I was going to be explaining it off the top of my head. If you're listing things, you're I enjoy hiking, swimming, and biking. You wouldn't say I enjoy hiking to go swimming and to take bike rides. So keeping parallel structure throughout it. And so that is something that they both speeches have. So what tragedies, what horrors, what crimes, that's an example. Ridge's face are affronted, persecuted, or oppressed. These are examples of parallelism, and it's just important to draw the connections between the things. Now on this front, now on that, we have an example. Fighting on three fronts, like just the way that it's written. That's parallelism, and that is a rhetorical device that he uses throughout both. Okay, main points though. So both of the main points are essentially about not giving up, not letting the Nazis win, not giving up until Hitler and the Nazis are destroyed. That's pretty much the main points that he is making in both speeches, and they both have pretty much the same tone. They are both about keeping everybody motivated to keep fighting, you know, to win in World War II, and just to not give up, keep calm and carry on, all that. So hopefully that helps you finish up the Unit 9 tutorials and you found this useful. Thanks!